And we are live. I am Dan Kingerski here on the Pittsburgh Hockey Now platforms, YouTube, and if I decide to post it anywhere else. So, gee, what's been going on in the Penguins world, huh? I had to rewrite, and triple rewrite the column I just posted at about 12:15 on Pittsburgh Hockey Now. In fact, I will share that screen here just real quick with you because I think it cuts to the heart of what we're going to talk about today. We're going to dive sort of right into this topic. Yes, we're going to talk about the draft and everything I saw and learned at the Combine last weekend. We are going to talk about some of the potential trades for the Penguins because, excuse me, this is what happens when you just knock down a lunch in 3 minutes before you do a live show. And I'm still a few minutes late. The Penguins are kind of stuck right in the middle. I mean, this is kind of what they worried about. And it's like on one hand, Kyle Dubas is doing a great job. On the other hand, he kind of might be doing a great job at the wrong moment. So we'll dive into that. But let me share the screen here on the primary issue I know a lot of you want to talk about. And that is Mario Lemieux reacquiring the Pittsburgh Penguins. Now, Pierre LeBrun put the report out. I think I was sitting with Hannah Kirkel over at the Federal Galley having truffalo chicken sandwiches from Given to Fly. Troy Beck, awesome. And then the news broke, and my phone just lit up like a Christmas tree. So we start making calls, and we are able to confirm from a source that I very much trust, saying, yes, Mario is interested. Dun, dun, dun. Which leads us to this column. Let me stop sharing that screen now. We could not confirm the inclusion of the others, Ron Burkle and, curiously, David Morehouse. So we're going to kind of set that to the side for the moment. Before we get to any other Penguin stuff, Dan Muse, the trades, and all of that, let's talk about Mario. This makes no sense to me. From a business standpoint, this makes absolutely no sense to me. Let me start with a couple of the reasons why. First of all, the Penguins aren't for sale. They're looking for minority investors, smaller investors, to kind of come in, chip in some cash to jumpstart the upper hill, called the Uptown development. That's really what it's about. The Penguins are about to have a tidal wave of cash. I don't mean small bills. I mean holy crap money, because here's the thing. What happened on Wednesday in the NHL? The group in Atlanta got their final hurdles cleared for an arena, and they have all of their ducks in a row to expand in the NHL. They're going to submit their expansion application. How much is that going to cost? Between $1.7 and $2.5 billion. So if 1.7 is the low mark, you know they're not going to go at the low mark. They probably can't go to the high mark at 2.5. So let's use a nice round number of $2 billion. Huh. Do you know how much of that $2 billion each owner gets? Yeah, the owners keep that money 100%, split 32 ways, a new growth that is probably unparalleled in the history of the National Hockey League. No longer do they have this trap, this money pit known as the Arizona Coyotes. No, they grabbed Ryan Smith and they shook his ankles for $1 billion to take that team and be able to move it to Salt Lake City. Even Carolina and Nashville and Florida are now viable franchises. No longer are the Florida Panthers giving you the 4-4-4 deal. That was 4 tickets, 4 hot dogs, 4 Cokes for $44. Yeah, remember that? What, 5-6 years ago? They were begging people to come to hockey games in Florida. Now it looks kind of like they're going to win their second straight Stanley Cup. And they're actually building a fan base this time. So all of those things tell me why FSG would sell. Okay, fine. Let's just, for the sake of possible argument, say they might be willing to. They might be willing to take on more than just a minority investor. And let me insert this little caveat in here. You're like, well, Dan, maybe Mario wants to buy that minority share. As part of our news confirmation on Wednesday that Lemieux might be interested, again, might be interested in investigating the possibility of buying. Okay? Language was quite important on that. Investigating the possibility is a hell of a lot different than doing it, right? I have investigated the possibility of riding my motorcycle to the other side of the Rockies on a Saturday morning. Mario and FSG have beef. It goes back to the post-sale process. I don't know the details. I know there's beef. So for Mario to buy the minority stake, and listen, he hasn't been around since he sold the team in 21. People are like, well, where's Mario? Oh, Mario's a part owner. No, Mario isn't really a part owner. He might have a couple of points, only so that FSG, through the sale process, could say that Mario still owned part of the team. That was a public relations point or two there. And he didn't come around. He came around for Yager's banner-raising jersey retirement ceremony. Are you all hearing what I'm saying, by the way? I get the distinct feeling a lot of times I'm dropping knowledge and I'm pushing something forward and everybody's just kind of emotionally feeling what they want to be true and letting Kingerski talk. Hear me when I'm telling you all of this, okay? Hear it so that you don't go all half-cocked when, oh, Mario's buying the team. Mario's buying the team. That was my cell phone yesterday, and I was like, hang on. And we did the whole investigative thing. We did the actual journalism thing, which kind of added fuel to the fire, unfortunately. But as we do the hard math, come to the hard math, and this is, I should go back to sharing the screen here. Take a look. I'm going to scroll down. Dun, dun, dun. In addition to all of those new revenue streams that FSG is going to receive, the expansion, the real estate, the growing NHL revenues. I hate to say this. Mario is worth, on the internet, reportedly, recent estimates say about $300 million. Huh, only. Not bad, huh? So Mario's got $300 million. Let's just say, let's take that as a low end of reality. Mario might have $400 million valuation. Doesn't mean he has $400 million cash to spend. That's the accumulation of houses and stocks and anything else he might be invested in. Ron Burkle, who was also reportedly part of the ownership group, is worth about $3 billion. Once again, doesn't have $3 billion cash lying around. I mean, you have to pay for Neverland Ranch somehow. So that takes outlays and various holdings. David Morehouse, we did a search on his net worth. Yeah, I mean, he's more like the rest of us. He's not quite part of that billionaire class. Let's just put it that way. I don't want to make it seem like I'm putting someone down for being worth 7 figures. Maybe 8, I don't know. None of my business. But as we're talking about this, he's down on that. So Morehouse isn't going to be able to kick in a few $100 million. Where is the money going to come from? Because if the NHL wants $2 billion in expansion, that means owners are also valuing their teams at $2 billion. And the Penguins are worth, that's right, above average. So the Penguins, let's say, with the new TV deal signed in Canada, with the real estate revenues coming in and all of this money, let's say the Penguins are worth about $2.5 billion. Do you think Ron Burkle's going to liquidate his entire life to make this happen for Mario a second time? So, reasonably, coldly, I'm saying, nah, I don't see this happening. Not to say it can't. Not to say your old buddy Dan is, can't be wrong. I'm just saying with everything I just laid out, none of what I gave you was opinion. But based on all of those facts, can you possibly see this happening? I have no idea how it could. I just don't. All right. So I can see the comments already. But Mario. Listen, if you need to, rewatch the first 10 minutes that I just did. That 10 minutes is going to save you a lot of grief and heartache and add, unfortunately, a good dose of reality. Maybe Mario finds additional partners and they all come in and they broom FSG aside. I mean, you can hope, I suppose, but hope is usually a pretty terrible emotion. Hope, what's the line in Shawshank? In here, hope gets a man in trouble. And I posted the Community Season 6 quote on Twitter, which I can't actually say on YouTube where they demonetize me. Silly rules. Okay, are we all on the same page? Has Dan have I made my point here? Unfortunately. Let's go to Prosintu. I have no idea what that means. Unless Mario and Burkle bought gold with their profits and outpaced the estimated value of the franchise, it does not make any sense to sell low and buy high on the franchise. Right. I mean, they sold it for $900 million. It's going to be worth $2 billion. Yeah. Brandon, how are you? He says, Dan. I say, Brandon. Let's go to Michael. Hey, Dan, how are you, bro? What's your take on reports of the Penguins trying to move Letang on the rotation? Who will take his spot on the top pairing? Michael, put a pin in that. I'm going to get to some of the Mario stuff. We'll come back to Chris Letang and Ricard Raquel and sort of all of that. Michael says, Lemieux is back. I hope you're being sarcastic, Michael. I will find my cattle prod in the closet, and I will find where you live. No, I'm kidding. Yes, the Anaheim Ducks and New York Rangers finally completed that trade. Kreider headed to Anaheim, mid-round pick and a prospect kind of. Yep, good news for Penguins fans. Penguins killer Chris Kreider traded to the Ducks. Gable Fisk, always look forward to seeing what he's going to hit me with. In my opinion, what, if anything, does the Penguins organization owe to Sidney Crosby? You often hear Penguins owe Sid X. What do I think that O is? That is really an interesting question. I suppose this kind of maybe dovetails a bit into the Mario discussion, because I think a lot of fans assume if Mario Lemieux just rode in on the white horse, that the rebuild would be over. He'd say, stop this rebuild nonsense. We're going to compete for a Stanley Cup. Go get all the best players for all of our bad players. The heavens will part. The red carpets will roll. The palms will lay on the street as Mario brings the Stanley Cup and hands it back to Sidney Crosby. Can I be any more hyperbolic about that? What do the Penguins owe to Sidney Crosby? I don't think anything anymore. And here's why. Sid knew the score when he signed this 2-year deal that kicks in next season. Sid knew the score. Maybe he didn't believe it. Maybe he and Mike Sullivan were under an entirely different impression that this could be done in a year or two. Maybe. But I also tend to believe Kyle Dubas when he says, I'm in contact with Sid. I'm being transparent on what we're doing and where we are headed. So if Sid signed up for this, then he signed up for it. That's on him. If he doesn't like it, he certainly can say, hey, Kyle, man, I can't take this. I thought I could. Can't do it. I'm out. And Dubas will have no problem trading him. Hopefully that answers your question. Atlanta named their first NHL team after Sherman and the Civil War burning the city. Never, ever, ever should that city get another NHL team. Now, Steve is not referring to the Atlanta Thrashers. Steve is referring to the Atlanta Flames, who became the Calgary Flames. I actually didn't know that was after Sherman and the Civil War. Are you sure about that? That would be unbelievably stupid if they did. I don't know if you all have been to parts of the Deep South. They still talk about the War of Aggression. Let's see here. NAS 26. Is that Elaine Nasruddin? The team value will continue to increase in 2025. Whatever the current amount in 20 years, the value will be $1 billion more than the current value. It's an investment for those with money. It really is, although your number is kind of wrong. In 20 years, it will not be worth just $1 billion more. It will be worth several billion more. Listen, go through the math I just did. They bought the team in 2021 for $900 million. I'm putting the valuation at $2 billion or over. So in 4 years, it's doubled. The next billion will come even quicker, and then the next billion quicker. Of course, money is worth about a roll of Charmin nowadays, but you get what I'm saying. Let's go to Matt Meager, Flux CC. Great job on those videos, Matt. When the world dies down a little bit, we're going to post more of the prospect scouting and analysis videos for the draft prospects that Matt has been doing. We posted Brady Martin. I'm going to do Jackson Smith and Roger McQueen next on PHN. And Matt did a great job on those videos. Yes, I'm going to start saying billions with a little pinky to my chin. Do not forget gambling revenue, Michael Parker says. Hockey is making money. I will tell you, having done business with multiple of these gambling companies, hockey is like the least bet sport. Absolutely terrible betting numbers for hockey. You'd think that because we're all involved in it, we don't see it. Step out of the hockey bubble. I think hockey is like sixth in terms of like golf. Auto racing gets college sports much bigger. Plus, of course, the NBA, NFL, and MLB. So the NFL's or NHL's down like seventh. Yeah, of course, if the NHL wanted to really get serious about gambling revenues, start releasing injuries. Start announcing goaltenders more than 10 minutes before the start of the damned game. But I digress. Stop having one team playing their third game in 4 nights while the other team has a solid 2 days rest. What are the odds? Sean Knudsen says, if Mario wants back in, does he have an issue with how it's being run and might want to change something? I think you're overestimating Mario's involvement there. He washed his hands. He walked away. And quite frankly, FSG is not doing a bad job running the Penguins. They really aren't. I know they're kind of a faceless corporate conglomeration of a bunch of billionaires chipping money in. That part can't be helped, but they're doing a just fine job. Listen, they are getting what Mario couldn't get done, developing the Hill District there. They're probably charging a little too much for ticket prices. Yeah, they're a little bit faceless, and you'd like to see John Henry come to some games and talk to the media. You'd like to see that stuff. You'd like to know that they give a damn about you. But overall, minus the personal connection, they're doing just fine. So I would be shocked if Mario was sitting there at home going, "Oh my God, I have to find $2 billion to rescue them. Otherwise, no, not really." Naz says Lemieux should sell off any remaining shares and join the Montreal Canadiens management. Then the team's odds of adding Crosby requesting a trade to Montreal would increase. Boy, what's his name? Jeff. He owns the Canadiens. Molson. You might give him a bad idea. Wouldn't that be something? Mario buys into the Montreal Canadiens. Oh my, that would be a headline, wouldn't it? Gary says, "No, it's so sad, but no matter who the coach is right now, the Pens are going to suck next season. I don't know who the problem is. Maybe Dubas. No, the problem is guys are old. The problem is you can't be good forever. Forever. You can't be good forever. And as good as Sidney Crosby was at 37, as good as we assume he's going to be at 38, you see the drop off of Chris Letang. Evgeny Malkin is tailing off. You saw the Erik Karlsson walkabout, quite frankly. You saw their players not perform to their best abilities. Such things happen on a bad team. Let's see here. Brandon. Mario wants to take over and install another old boy at the helm. Yeah, I really would advise Mario not to go back to the future or back to the past. Don't get the old gang back together. Putting David Morehouse back as the president and stuff, I don't think would behoove the Penguins, quite frankly. That time was, and that time has gone. Man, I hate reality sometimes. SCTV fan. Take off, yo hoser. Johnny LaRue is coming up next. Okay. Oh, Nitrate had a question for me yesterday. Let me look for it. Here it is. Well, guys are all over them. You guys are lining up questions that had nothing to do with Mario. I appreciate this. I'm going to take this question. Then I'm going to circle back to Chris Letang and the trade stuff and that, and then I'll dip into more of your questions. So here's Nitrate. Offer sheet, Dallas, Maverick Bourque. $2.34 million over 3 years. The comp is a third rounder in 2026. Offer sheet 4.6 for 3 to 5 years. Comp is a fifth rounder. Any thoughts? Well, yes, plenty of thoughts. I've been a big proponent of getting Maverick Bourque out of Dallas for about a year now. Just with where they are, he doesn't fit. He's a young guy, and they're trying to win. They're trying to salvage this. Having said that, if they're serious about trading Jason Robertson, that changes the calculus, doesn't it? But if they haven't traded Jason Robertson by July 1, if I'm Dubas, do I scoop in and give up a third-round pick for Maverick Bourque? Hell yes. I am on that phone for Maverick Bourque at 12:02. There's one RFA I would call first. In fact, maybe I'll have Jason Spezza call Dallas while I call the other RFA to throw a monkey wrench into everybody's UFA plans. Absolutely. Get Maverick Bourque out, get him with the Penguins, get him a comfortable chance. Because if they're going to give a 4th rounder for Philip Tomasino, a 3rd rounder for Maverick Bourque is a no-brainer. And what Bourque does that probably Tomasino doesn't is Bourque is a scrappy little guy. Bourque is going to play very much in a style conducive to playing in or around Sidney Crosby. He's going to get below the goal line. He's going to rough up. He's going to, get on that puck. He's going to fight for it. So, heck yes. Give me Maverick Bourque 7 days a week. So, let me scroll back here to the Chris Letang question. Hang on. Where is it? No, anyway, I don't know where it's at. So I have to get this off the screen, though. There. I can't find the Letang. I really thought I could. Trading Chris Letang. I know Josh put that out, and I know Josh also kind of, as he put it out, also poo-pooed the possibility. If you notice, Josh actually quoted me in the article, or my conversation with Chris Letang in the article. I'm just saying, I appreciated Josh kind of, a little wink and a nod there. I think a great deal of Josh Yohe, and you can't change my mind. Trading Chris Letang is impossible. Absolutely, unequivocally impossible. Because, first of all, the Penguins are not going to give up the required assets it would to do it. It would cost the Penguins to trade Chris Letang. Had he not had sort of a worsening heart condition this season, perhaps this conversation is different. But, ifs and buts are candy and nuts, right? So when a player undergoes heart surgery, you what team is going to roll the dice on that? Because actually, I'll kind of maybe disagree or insert some additional facts into that report. Letang has a 35-plus contract. What that means is if Chris Letang retires tomorrow, the Penguins are on the hook, full boat. For the next 3 years, they would have that $6.2 million cap hit on their books. Can't get around it. Now, what they probably could make a pretty good case for LTIR. They would call the league and say, look, he had a heart condition. He's not comfortable continuing to play. I suspect the NHL might say, okay, we got you. Fair enough. Send us the medical records. We'll double check you. Make sure you're not, pulling a, make sure you're not pulling a Tampa or a Vegas on us, and we're good to go. If Chris Letang starts next season playing, he's even playing at an average level, and then tries to retire a summer from now, you can't use that LTIR. You can't use that excuse. Because the NHL will say, wait, he was good enough to play a whole season. You can't claim injury now. He overcame it. They fixed it. And the case for an LTIR would be much greater, or much more difficult, I should say. I mean, don't forget, the NHL really investigated Chicago's Marian Hossa LTIR claim. They're like, what, a rash? You're kidding me. From hockey equipment. The guy's played hockey his whole life. You're telling me he has a rash? No. I think doctors even traveled over to Latvia to personally examine him and to go through this entire process. So, yes, the NHL is a little bit sick and tired of being accused of allowing the LTIR rules and loopholes to be exploited. So they would not give the Penguins a pass, especially on a 35-plus contract. So do I think they can trade Chris Letang? No. No, I do not. It's kind of a shame that it's come to this But as I said in the moment 3 years ago, the Malkin 4-year deal was 1 year too many. The Letang deal was the one that was going to burn them. Because why would you sign a player to play till he's 41, 42 years old? That's insanity. And, it looks like the best case scenario for the Penguins is it will be 2 years too long. We go to Andrew, who has chipped in $5 to the PHN Travel Fund. Thank you very much, Andrew Killenstein, or Killenstein, Frankenstein. Let's go to Andrew's question here. Andrew goes right to the top of the list. My man, I appreciate you. With Rust, Letang, Sid, Gino, Raquel, I feel the Pens won't be able to draft high enough to land the Bedard, Fantilli, Celebrini type star center. Well, it's kind of funny you mentioned that, Andrew. Thank you. Because, let me share the screen here. This was not yesterday's column. When did I write this? 2 days ago. So I wrote this on Tuesday, and it was nuanced. You really can't, you have to sit and think about this for a minute, because I just couldn't dumb it down, is what I'm saying. So let me share the screen here. Here's what I wrote yesterday in regards to your question, Andrew. Yeah, the Penguins might be stuck, and you go right to the heart of my argument. The Penguins right now have a pretty good top six. You add McGroarty and Koivunen to Rust and Raquel. You add those four wingers to Crosby and Malkin. Well, that's pretty good top six, isn't it? It's actually a darn good top six. I'll take that pretty much any day of the week. So what's going to happen then to the Penguins? I mean, let's just say Kyle Dubas, in fact, is able to land a couple of these young players that he wants to acquire. Maybe from Buffalo, maybe from wherever else. And we're pretty sure we know the handful of teams who have now called the Penguins about some of their veterans. Dubas told us as much on Friday when Josh, Yowie, and I kind of cornered Dubas in the elevator banks of the Buffalo Marriott, where they were holding the draft combine, or the scouting combine. Kyle, I thought Josh and I worked well together that day. We kind of just took turns on the questions. He had a couple. We had a pretty good rhythm, and we kept it conversational so that at no point did it feel like a press conference. And Josh does the same trick I do. Yeah, not really a trick, but you don't hold the phone to someone's face. Here I have a coaster. You don't hold the phone up to someone's face and then ask them questions. Of course, they're going to be on defense and on guard. You stand there casually. You hold your phone down low, like just down at your waist. You don't stick it up in their face. I wish I could teach a lot of reporters that question. So, he and I are both recording with our phones down low. We're having a good conversation with Dubas. And yeah, some of the teams with lots of younger players who want to take that next step are indeed calling the Penguins, per Kyle Dubas. And let's just say he gets a couple of these targets. Let's say you get Maverick Bourque. And I don't know. I'm going to toss this out there hypothetically. JJ Peterka. Now your team's really good. Like, you have a legitimate chance to make the playoffs. You get a couple of defensemen. Owen Pickering is inserted. Whether it's Jack St. Ivany, Harrison Brunick, or Connor Timmins on your blue line, or maybe two of the three, if you can somehow trade Erik Karlsson. That would be addition by subtraction. You see how easy it is this summer for the Penguins to reach a level that's on the top side of mediocrity. And then what happens? You're drafting 16th, 18th. Dun, dun, dun. So, yeah, I really do think that the Penguins badly need a center in this draft, whether it's Brady Martin. Oh, wait, I have Brady Martin's little file here, don't I? Oh, wait, where is it? There's Brady Martin. the Spitfire of the draft from the Sioux Greyhounds, the Sam Bennett, Brad Marchand that everybody is dying to get their hands on. Will he be there at number 11? I no longer think so. I still think that Martin rising up and Cole Reschny is also rising because he's got a great 200-foot game in the middle, that McQueen could fall to the Penguins at number 11. And don't be one of those sheep. McQueen's going to be like Nolan Patrick or some other, bust. Don't be that person. I'm just telling you up front, getting Roger McQueen, a potential top 6 center with the 11th overall pick, champagne corks should be popping all over Cranberry. But that it does make this year's draft much more important because you can't bank on the Rangers collapsing. You just can't. You can't bank on that and getting a high draft pick next year. So, yeah, I mean, I can see where it'd be very tempting for Kyle Dubas to trade a Raquel and a Rust to hurt the Penguins this coming season. With Mike Sullivan as coach, that would be career suicide. Without Mike Sullivan as coach, with Dan Muse, you can get away with that. And you can say, we have to rebuild. We have to cut deeper. We thought we could maybe, retool at this level. It's not going to be possible. We actually have to go through some pains for a minute. And long story short, what that means is we have to draft high. And maybe you get Gavin McKenna next year or one of the very good centers who might be available. It was like a 5-minute answer. But hopefully you got your $5 worth, Andrew. I hope that gets you. I hope that gets you to what you wanted to know. Oh my God, the Shabanoff stuff. Listen, all right. Has anybody besides that gambling website reported it? Anybody? There were reports. I mean, think about this. I mean, this is why you can't trust reports coming out of Russia. This is why we kind of sat on the Vasily Ponomarev stuff for a few days until Dubas confirmed it to us last Friday, is because stuff gets mangled coming out of Russia. It just does. Sometimes it's not truthful. Sometimes it's completely misunderstood or mangled or whatever. There was a report last weekend that Shabanoff was going to sign with the Flyers or had signed with the Flyers. That wasn't true. So I'm kind of done talking about that guy until we get something a bit more concrete. So let it go. It's one of those Russian things, and I really have no desire to continue it until there's actual information on it. Could the Penguins draft 3 first-round picks this year? I suppose it's possible. If they traded Raquel to the right team, got that first-rounder, and the Rangers kicked in one, possible. They're not getting a first-rounder for Erik Karlsson. That ain't happening. Let's go back to Maddie here. After Dubas's comments to you at the Combine, me, you being me, and the fact that the Pens are one of the only teams actually selling right now, does Dubas go hard with the veteran sell-off this offseason to capitalize? I think so. You don't get many chances to strike when the iron is hot, and yeah. Again, my answer today is different than my answer was 2 months ago, right? The situation has changed dramatically. And so my opinion has to change with the changing circumstances and situation. And yes, I would absolutely advocate Dubas just shipping him off. Do I think Matt Grzelcyk will stay? Do I think he should stay? No. I have a hard... Dave Molinari disagrees with me. We had that point counterpoint a month ago or so, but I'm not on board. I think Owen Pickering should be given a lot more runway than he was last season. Ryan Shea as well can certainly step in and be a competent NHL defenseman with a little bit of sandpaper to him. Yeah. So from that standpoint, no. The only way I would bring back Matt Grzelcyk is if, and again, I guess I just went through the Chris Letang and Erik Karlsson stuff. But if you're sans a power play quarterback, then maybe you bring Grzelcyk back in. But otherwise, you'd have to say, Letang, figure it out. Let's go back to Michael Thompson here. I know Anderson has 1 year left on his contract. Anderson who? Mr. Anderson. Do I think Dubas should see if we can trade Ned and maybe a third-round pick for, Freddie Anderson, the Carolina Hurricanes goalie? Trade Ned and a third-round pick for Freddie Anderson. It would free up the goalie issue after the year. You can let him go. Well, Michael, Nedeljkovic's contract is up after this coming season as well. And Anderson kind of laid claim to the starting net in Carolina. I don't see the reasoning behind your trade there. Sorry. Dubas could trade Rustin Raquel if he wanted to. Yes, he could very easily do it if he wanted to. It's about what you get back. And I suppose he wasn't very happy with the return on Raquel at the trade deadline. Will Cooley offer sheet, $4.5 million, costs us a second in 2026. Thoughts? They cannot. Wait, they do have their second round pick in 2026, so they could do that. Yeah. Now, bear in mind, the Rangers just traded Chris Kreider. The Rangers are trying to deal Mika Zibanejad. The Rangers are trying, or it seems almost a fait accompli that they're going to trade Keandre Miller. So they're going to sign Will Cooley. That's a Sullivan player as the day is long. Thoughts? Yeah, heck yeah. I'd give you a second for Will Cooley. But the Rangers aren't going to let that happen. Let's go to Zachary DeRosa. Should have what? Revised it? Do you mean rephrased it? Yeah, not a clue what you're saying there, Zachary. Are people still sore of the Civil War? Get a life. Well, yes. Have you been outside lately? These morons are still waving a Confederate flag at country concerts well north of the Mason-Dixon line. Woo, we're rebels. No, you're an idiot. Put down the Confederate flag. And I'm far from someone who's on the political left. Put down the Confederate flag. Stop it. Big Joe, do you think Dubas stands pat at the draft, or do you think trades start rolling in around then? I think just history tells us either in the days before the draft or the days after the draft, that's when the trades really start. Although, because of free agency, that has sort of changed the dynamic a little bit. I think, because I expected some trades this week, not just, the one Rangers trade, because all the GMs were in Buffalo together, grouped and gathered, and I thought a bit more might have come out of that, but I was wrong. And since all the GMs aren't elbow to elbow at the draft, they're all going to be in their home city, I think that actually will slow down the trade talks. And then free agency being 2 days after the draft, that's going to add a different dynamic where a team might say, I can wait 48 hours. Hold your horses, Lucinda. We're going to take a look here at what we can get on the free agent market. And then if I don't get my guy on July 1st, then we'll talk about your guy. Let's go to Gable again. Letang mentioned that he thinks he's going to sign another contract after this one. I don't remember that, but if he said it, I bet you he's reconsidering. Which is more likely? Tanger signs another contract or expansion team on the moon? I'm going to go ahead and guess the moon there, Gable. Let's see here. Let's go back to Zachary. Was asking my thoughts on a gamble on him. Who's him? Y'all you have to figure out how this works here. I don't have like all of your questions on a piece of paper. I don't know what you're talking about, Zachary. So that gets me actually to the end of the questions in 45 minutes. Would you look at that? Let's talk about a couple of things here we're going to have coming up on Pittsburgh hockey now. Jackson Smith, probably the top defenseman that the Penguins are going to have a real shot at on January 20th, June 28th. And he becomes a real possibility pending how the Penguins feel about. I think there's going to be one center left for them. I don't think there will be two. You're going to see this massive run on centers from 3 to 10. The Penguins will get who the other teams don't want. Fortunately for them, I think there are 5 quality pivots. Obviously, they're in tiers. You're not crying tears, but TIERS. You're going to have the Misa and the Hagens go up front. Porter Martone, more of a power forward, not a center, by the way. Very, very good. Then you start getting into the McQueens and the Martins and the Cole Reshney, and there's one more that I'm forgetting. I always just doing this off the fly. It seems like I'm always forgetting one name, but there's a fourth one, and I think depending on what Anaheim and Buffalo do at 9 and 10. Maybe they take both centers. I don't think Buffalo should take a center. Buffalo has plenty of centers under 21 years old, 21 and under. The last thing they should be doing is taking another center. Anaheim as well has, a crop of pivots below 25. They too should be strengthening the rest of their team, which bodes well for the Penguins, I think. Predicting what Buffalo or Anaheim will do probably isn't a very good career move, because if they were better at doing what they did, they wouldn't be where they are. So let's just say the Penguins aren't really a big fan of Cole Reshney, who might be the center available, right? Or even if they are a big fan, they think, okay, Jackson Smith is better. Here's a lefty defenseman who can run a power play, be a bit physical, skates pretty well, has some defensive weaknesses, don't get me wrong. That's who I think they would go with. He's going to Penn State next year, which is craziness to me that Penn State has now entered the chat as a hockey power. I suppose it only makes sense. You can only spend so much NIL money on football. And if you can start throwing some money around on hockey and get up there with the Boston Blue Bloods, I could see State College being a bit of a hockey destination. I mean, it fits. You're in the mountains up there. It's kind of a hockey sort of town. You have the Flyers and the Penguins fans meeting at Penn State. So they know hockey, they like hockey. And now if your school can play a competent brand of hockey with some big names, if only for 1, maybe 2 years, you do it. So I think Jackson Smith would be the Penguins' backup plan. There was the other big defenseman, the 6'6" Czech kid, Radim Materka, who I got a pretty good laugh out of at the Combine. I actually got a laugh out of everybody because soft-spoken. English obviously isn't his first language. He's doing like this. They basically, what they did was, they were at this practice rink in Buffalo. There were 3 stations where they put the big NHL backdrop behind you and this little tiny riser of a stage and a stool. So you're just kind of sitting there on the stool while a bunch of media people gathered around, and the combine is not one for big name media people. For the most part, the combine has been and is for a lot of people you've never heard of, small websites, big social media accounts, so on and so forth, who don't really know how the process works. They're not doing this every day. So one guy had no clue, just the process etiquette. He just stood there, and I'll use my wallet as his phone. He just parks, like he boxes everybody out, and he holds his phone up vertically and puts it in the guy's face and starts talking. And then when he realized no one realized he was talking and no one was answering his questions, he just kind of was quiet the rest of the day and just stood there like this in front of every prospect. And it was kind of funny. I don't begrudge people getting their start, but you turn sideways, you lean in, you make room for other people, and you know what questions you should ask to get kind of the information that you need. I digress. Anyway, poor Radim Materka, obviously not an English speaker by native tongue. Someone asked him about having dinner with Kyle Dubas and the Penguins. Like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if Kyle Dubas was there or not, though. Kind of odd. Okay. So a couple more questions get lobbed at him. In the meantime, I pulled up a picture of Kyle Dubas on my phone. And I said, Radim, is this Kyle Dubas? Was he there? He's like, oh, yeah, he's a good guy. He laughs. Everybody laughs. That's kind of what the scouting combine was about. The problem with him, he's an all-round defenseman, 6'6" already. He's only 17. He has 2 more years of high school to go. If you're asking me, I mean, look, he's already played against the men in Czechia. But that's a lot of maturing to do. That's a lot to ask of a 17-year-old with 2 more years of high school to step into a professional hockey organization. I would have real concerns about the length of time of maturation and adapting and process. I mean, if you get Radim Materka, you're going to want to I always say Czechoslovakia, a Czechian veteran, really to take him under his wing and make sure he's well taken care of and live with and all of that. It would be a process. And for that reason, if you're taking it, drafting at number 11, you need a quicker turnaround. You need talent. I would go with Jackson Smith for that reason. Big Joe says, I like Atchinson a lot, however you spell his name. I actually think you got it right. Aichtenson. Atchison. I didn't get a chance to talk to him at the combine. I kind of wish I had, but he went off at the same time, I think, as Brady Martin. Kyle says, good to see you, Dan. No 82-game grind this year. You earned a solid year off of last year. Yeah, I wish I could take a year off. I'm not. I can't even take a day off. What did the Penguins do when I take a day off? They hire Dan Muse. I mean, come on. I swear to you that the Penguins PR has a sick sense of humor, and they're like, "Oh, Kingerski's taking a day off, huh?" Announce this news. It did to me last year too. I take a day off, and they announce the Cody Glass trade. Maybe you all should pay me to take a day off. Let's see here. Oh, nitrate. I do not want Dubas trading our picks. Weaponize those for offer sheets. Trade the other picks we have acquired. I think that probably goes without saying. To keep what you got. You can't always get what you want, but sometimes, if you try, sometimes you might get what you need. Let me see if I've got all the questions here. I also believe this year for Dubas is more of a clean house year than a year where we are going to add. Absolutely. Go to Robes Pierre 08. Actually, just Robes 08. Trade Crosby for the 2 Habs first rounders, and you can get 3 total. Yeah, but those Habs picks are 16 and 17. I want a hell of a lot more for Sidney Crosby than a 16th and 17th overall pick. Good Lord. You're selling on the cheap there. Matt reminds me, yes, the center I was forgetting. How could I? Jake O'Brien. Yeah, he's probably the top of that second tier. He's ahead of Brady Martin and Roger McQueen in my estimation. He wasn't. Kind of funny how the centers have kind of come and gone from the Penguins' target. At first, Roger McQueen was way up there. Brady Martin was back there. Jake O'Brien was back there. O'Brien was like projected 10 to 15, maybe even 10 to 20. Martin was 15 to 20. And then the chatter started. Oh, I like Martin. I like Martin too. I like Martin a lot. I like Martin more. Oh, I like Martin more. Plus infinity. And Martin goes top 10, and Jake O'Brien, heck, O'Brien might go 5, 6. So, yeah, that pushes everybody back. Let's see here. Some crosstalk. I know it's tough, but I want the Penguins to commit to the rebuild, retool, writes Nitrate. I don't want to jump the gun. That is, I think that's a possibility where the Penguins are. They would almost have to artificially stop it at this point. That means trading Rust and Raquel and plugging in young guys. That's how you will know Kyle Dubas is committed to the rebuild. And I hate the fact that Brian Rust could be traded. I'll be honest. This is me talking personally here. I can separate personal. Rust is such a good guy. I can crack some jokes with him in the locker room, but my interaction doesn't matter as much as what the other players can do. They can talk to Rust. He can talk to them. He can say things to them. Hey, pick it up, or great job. He carries the weight, the gravitas of a warrior. He wasn't born with Sidney Crosby's skill and destiny. He was a third-round pick, a fourth-line grinder who played college hockey, who had to fight his way into the NHL, had a couple of false starts, up and down in 14, and then in 15 again before he finally sticks at the end of the year because he was a really good fit for Mike Sullivan's north-south speed game. And, okay, so he's a fourth-line grinder. A couple years later, he gets on a hot streak, has some goals, gets himself bumped up in the lineup, goes cold, blah, blah, blah. And gets another shot the next year. And all of a sudden, by 2020, the guy's a top 6 winger. In the last few years, 30 goals. I mean, what he has done, he has forced coaches' hands to play him higher in the lineup by just being indispensable at everything. And then adding the offensive game, acquiring it as he has. He can speak to a lot of players in a way that Sidney Crosby probably can't. I mean, think about this. I mean, you go to work, whatever you do, whether you're pumping gas or you're running an oil and gas company and everything in between. If you're kind of a natural at something and you tell somebody how to do their job better, they're like, easy for you to say. I get that when I try to help writers. There are certain natural gifts, certain things I'm just pretty good at, and they're like, oh, well, that's you. That's not me. All right, fine. Don't listen to me. But somebody else can tell them the exact same thing I've just told them. And they're like, oh, okay. It's human nature. And Rust is one of those guys who can say things beyond Crosby. Leadership and all those intangibles he brings to the table. So from that standpoint, you don't want to see Brian Rust get traded. Having said that, do you want a pair of wingers who can score 35 goals and get you a 15th overall pick? I think we are to that point with Dan Muse as coach, not Mike Sullivan, that in fact that has to be a serious and genuine consideration. I do know, I have heard, I should say, that teams have called about Brian Rust. Not just called like, hey, we're really interested if you decide to put him on the block. Okay, yeah. No. You didn't hear me. Really, one of those kind of conversations. I know there are a couple of teams that view him as a missing piece to get from there to here. Okay, kids, that's an hour, 1 minute. I am going to wrap it up. Oh, Michael, thank you so much. I appreciate you, my man, kicking in a couple of bucks to the can. You guys honor me with those. You don't have to do it. I'm doing these anyway, but certainly thank you very much, Michael. So I'm wrapping it up. The sun is actually shining. I haven't been on the bike since I went to see the Mothman last week. Check out those pictures. And I will we'll do another one next week. So that'll be we'll be hitting the draft talk next week. There will be draft videos and such on Pittsburgh Hockey Now. And oh, by the way, I signed the papers. Huge news for Pittsburgh Hockey Now. We're not going to be. We're not going to be bigger than U.S. Steel, but we are going to try to change the landscape of sports media. This is our time. We're taking a run at the damn thing. I couldn't get it done by myself, but we are going to try something that other people have nibbled at, but nobody has, in fact, gone as far as we're about to go in that process. So stay tuned for that. Thank you all. Have fun. Good night, and have a pleasant tomorrow.